Should you consider getting a contracting job? Usually, if you move out to the Washington, D.C. area, or if you're coming out of the military, you're going to think, maybe I should get a contracting job. And the main reason people have this thought is because they hear it's easier to get into and it pays a lot more money than if you work at a federal government job. So I sat down with a friend of mine recently and I asked him, what is it like to be a contractor? So the company that we're focusing on is Leidos, and this is a company that is around the Washington, D.C. area. It's actually in Reston, Virginia. It has about 45,000 employees. So he has worked directly for Leidos over the last 6 months, and he's supporting a federal agency that exists in Washington, D.C. So I asked him, how did you get your job? He took a 2-page resume. He basically Googled the template for his resume, made it fit. Then he uploaded it to LinkedIn and clearjobs.net, which is a website if you have a clearance and you're looking for jobs, you can upload your resume there. He also looked on USA Jobs, applied for a few jobs, and ended up actually getting a job offer for a GS7 and I think a GS9, but the pay was too low, so he wasn't going to take it. And then a recruiter reached out to him on LinkedIn. They set up some interviews. In total, it was 4 interviews. Now this individual, he's a cybersecurity professional. So it was a requirement for him to have a top secret clearance, which he does, so that wasn't the issue. But during the interviews, he said the first 2 interviews, they were more about general skills, right? Kind of getting to know you. But the last 2 interviews, they were technical. So they were asking him very technical questions about cybersecurity. And the way that the questions were designed is basically you're not going to get the answer right, because if you do, they'll go deeper, right? So they'll ask you something about computers, like maybe what's the memory BIOS of this system, or how do you write this line of code? And then when you answer that, they take it a level deeper. And then if you answer that, they take it a level deeper until finally you're like, well, I don't know. And basically they're just trying to figure out how much do you know. Now, after the 4th interview, the job offer came, and it took about 6 days from the interview to the actual job offer, and he accepted it. It was about $75,000 a year. So I asked him, what could help somebody get into Leidos, knowing what you know now? And he said the best thing to do is to put your resume on clearjobs.net. More than likely, a recruiter will reach out to you. If not, go on LinkedIn and you can find recruiters. Reach out to them. And when you're going through the interview process, just be honest. Be brutally honest. Do not think that just because you do not know an answer, you will not get a job offer, because a lot of times it's going to result in you not knowing and you will still get the job. Now, since being hired, he actually helps his boss look at other resumes before people are going to get interviewed for his company. And he says one of the red flags that they see on resumes is when you have like 10 or 12 certifications in a 2-month period, right? So this shows that you're kind of like cramming for the job. It almost seems a little disingenuous, a little fake, if you're cramming that many certificates in such a short period of time. Okay, so then I asked him, what are some of the pros and cons of working in Leidos? One of the pros is that it's a very laid-back atmosphere. He says there's nobody micromanaging him. There's nobody that, is making him work late or anything like that. Also, he said the pay is better than a lot of the other contracting companies. They actually receive 11 federal holidays paid time off, and not every contracting company will do that. The company will also sponsor your clearance. So if you manage to get hired onto Leidos and you do not have the right clearance, they will pay for that. And sometimes that can cost thousands of dollars. He also said the people around him, his coworkers, they were pretty cool because they're selective when they're hiring. They're not just going to let anybody come through. So for the cons, one is that the upper level leadership, the management, they expect a lot out of their workers, and they're not going to hold you by the hand, so they want you to figure it out. Also, with his coworkers, while they might be, good people, there's no issues with them, their personalities are more introverted, and they're a little socially awkward. Because what you'll find sometimes is people that are heavy into the IT field, they don't have a big personality. Now for the contractor, they're 12 months long. After 12 months, you can be extended, you can be put back onto another contract, but there is no guarantee. So there's always that in the forefront of your mind, whether or not you're going to be able to be put on another project. And one of the biggest problems that he mentioned is actually interacting with the federal employee. Because a lot of federal workers, they feel secure in their position. They know that it's going to take a lot for them to get fired, so they talk to them any kind of way at times. It could be a little rude and disrespectful, or maybe they're not getting a lot of work done, so they don't even really want to talk to them or interact with them unless it's absolutely necessary. So I asked him what he did on a regular day, what was kind of his routine, and he did a lot of cybersecurity. He looked for malicious attacks, he identified it, he put together reports, but all in all, he said it wasn't a bad job at all. So then I asked, why did you pick a contracting job instead of a federal government job? And there's two main reasons. The first one, he said, is the pay. And this is because he was being offered GS7. And we can all agree GS7 is a pretty low pay. So that was one. Number two is he does not want to travel into Washington, D.C. So those were his two big hangups with federal employment. And then I asked him, would you ever consider in the future maybe getting a government job? And he said he would if it was 100% remote. And then I said, hey, you know that after 5 years you can lock in a pension, and he didn't know that. It still surprises me to this day that a lot of people don't understand that if they just put 5 years into a government job, you will have a pension at 62. All right, so what gets you fired at Leidos? What will get you fired is being disrespectful to your coworkers. That's the number one thing. Number two thing is your clearance can get you fired. If you do anything to lose that clearance, you can lose your job, because the clearance is part of the job description. So as soon as you lose that, you're not qualified anymore. And people can do things like, in some cases, a DUI or anything that makes you seem untrustworthy, that could cause you to lose your clearance. And there was one more thing. They have certificates, right? Because he works in the IT field. So there's a lot of certificates. There's always continuing education. And if your supervisor or the management team, if they see that you're not progressing in your field, then that's going to cause a red flag to go up. And then they could, have a conversation with you like, hey, why aren't you doing your certificates? That could ultimately lead you to get terminated as well. Now, with the teleworking, he's a little upset about this because there is no teleworking. Now, the federal agency that he supports, the federal employees, they're doing teleworking. They're doing probably 2 days in the office, 3 days at home. But when it comes to the actual contractors, they're making them come in every single day. Okay, so then I asked him at the end, I said, hey, listen, what would you rate this job in job satisfaction? 1 to 10. 10 being extremely satisfied and 1 you want to quit right now. He said he would give this job a 9. Now, if you're open to contracting jobs, maybe you're open to federal government jobs, you want to see this from another perspective. You want to see this from the government employee perspective. If you want to see that, then I want you to watch this video next. If you would like to see more videos like this, please click like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.